Good afternoon. This is Jason Carlasio. I'm here to talk about conservative politics, mafia history, the election 2024, the next few months. That's what I plan on talking about. There's an awful lot to talk about today. I want to talk about this is 3 years in August about the end of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was a terrible failure. We've had um, three of our soldiers, I'm sorry, 13 people were killed, 13 Americans. Why did they withdraw soldiers before withdrawing civilians? It was a debacle on the Biden administration. And the saying would go is that they truly have blood on their hands. The Biden administration never been held accountable. The media refuses to hold them accountable, and I feel sorry for the families, many parents, spouses, lost people. Very, very sad. It was a failure on the Biden administration. Something that you should talk about. And that leads me to the other thing about Iran possibly getting a nuclear weapon. I think Iran will wipe out Israel. That's what they want to do, which is very scary. And they'll use this nuclear weapon against other people, other countries. And what should be talked about too, what Trump is saying is Donald Trump, when he was president, Iran was going broke. We weren't using their oil. We were energy independent. We did not need them. But now, thanks to the Biden administration, we're energy dependent. We need Iran. Iran was going broke previously. Now they have the money. They have enough to make a nuclear weapon, which is very scary. And it may, we're on the border of World War III between Iran, China, Russia. A lot of scary stuff that's happening. And who's running our country now? Where's Joe Biden? Always on vacation. He's not around. Where's Harris? Out campaigning for president. She did a poor interview on CNN with Tim Walz. Very poor interview. That never answered the question, just beat around the bush. I love she keeps saying day one. Well, day one was what, 1,400 days ago at least? And you're president now. Why don't you do something now? Why don't you do this 1,400 days ago? And if she can't handle interviews like this, how's she going to deal with leaders in Iran, in China, Russia, Putin? How's she going to handle them if she can't even handle these interviews? Again, in the primary, Democrat, she didn't receive one vote. She just got lucky in her political career that Biden happened to take her as VP. So what is that? That tells you that she does not have much of an experience. She's been in the public sector all her life, never in the private sector. And the reason why I think Donald Trump could relate to people, working class people, because he's dealt with people. He's dealt with developers, he dealt with builders, he dealt with construction workers, people of that sort. Harris, she's just been in the public sector all her life. She's been around a lot of elitists. She's not around the average person, the middle class person. So she doesn't understand that. See, at least as bad as Joe Biden was, no fan of him. You could say he's Scranton Joe. He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. He relates to the union worker. But you can't say that about Harris at all. She does not relate to the union worker. She's an elitist. She's a coastal elite, San Francisco elite, very far left, further left than Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So how scary is that? And bailing out rioters during 2020. Look at what Tim Walz, how he handled the riots in 2020. They were terrible. Um, Minneapolis burned to the ground and did nothing. Did not send the National Guard in, did not send in the police. The biggest thing of all is probably our border, along with the economy. Well, that's another thing with the economy, too. She wants to put in price controls, which never worked in Venezuela, Soviet Union. All they result in shortages. They tried it in the 70s, and that was a failure. And price controls do not work. All they do is result in shortages. We won't be able to get the food and the medicine that we need. The problem is government spending, the government printing too much money. That's what has to be talked about. Government printing too much money. She's part of the problem. She was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. On a 50-50 vote, the VP, vice president, has the tie-breaking vote. She was the tie-breaking vote to pass this budget, which created all this inflation. And that we have where we are presently now. And that's what talked about. Donald Trump's been talking about it. This spending money. Right now, she's the VP. Oh, I want to do this and that on day one. Well, day one was 1,400 days ago. Why didn't she do things back then? Why didn't she do these things now? The government's printing too much money, and this is why we have the housing shortage. Houses are so high because interest rates were so low at 3%. People had those mortgages. They don't want to move and go to another home and take out another mortgage, and they're going to be paying 7%. So that's why there's a housing shortage. People don't want to pay a higher interest rate, and you can't blame them. That's why there's a shortages of homes. That's why homes cost so much. And this idea of wanting to hand $25,000 to people to buy a home, it's going to increase home prices. If you're a homeowner now, you might actually like it because your home's going to value. If it's 400,000, it's going to go up to 425,000. That's all that's going to do. It's not going to solve the problem, and it's just like with colleges. Why do colleges cost so much? It's supply and demand, because over the years, the government's encouraged people, you can't get a job without a college degree. Meanwhile, there's a shortages in the trades there. You need a college degree for gender studies, but you don't have to be an electrician. That's why there's a shortages in the trades. And all this idea of financial aid for college, all it does is increase the cost of college. And this idea of free college, no such thing as free college. Why does somebody that's a truck driver, an electrician, somebody in the skilled trades, a construction worker, whomever, have to pay for somebody's college degree for gender studies, a degree that they're not going to be employable with? Uh, I would say over 80% of people that go to college don't do what they went to college for. But in many of these college degrees, you're not employable with. There's no such thing as free college. Somebody has to pay for it. Who's going to pay for it? Us, the taxpayers. Government printing more money causes inflation. There you go. Like, wants this Medicare for all, wants to take away private. This is Harris. Take away private, Kamala Harris, take away private health insurance for 170 million people. That's scary to go on this government funded, which is going to be rationing shortages. You see the Canadians that come here for the healthcare. People around the world come here for their healthcare because they can't get it in other countries because there's such a shortages. Socialized medicine is a failure. There's some European countries that are trying to get away from it. South American countries that are trying to get away from it. They don't like it. They don't want it. You talk to people from Great Britain, they say it's a poorly run health system. There's shortages. People lying to go to the dentist. They want to get rid of it over in Great Britain. The Canadians are coming over here. When's the last time Canada, you heard a new medicine come out of Canada? They all come out of the United States. Like this idea of price controls a while back on prescription drugs, that's just going to result in shortages. People can't get um, the medicine that they need. All that's going to do is result in shortages. Yeah, Canada has price controls, but they can't get the medicine they need. They can't get the health care they need. Contrary to what you say, everybody has access to health care. And actually, you have access to paying for it. But this socialized medicine is a failure in other countries. Why does she want to do things that have been a failure in other countries? Another thing, too, about this making electric vehicles, electric cars, yeah, maybe there's a place for them, but Donald Trump was talking about, and I've talked to other people in the trucking industry, how right now you're setting back the trucking industry 50, 60 years. Because right now, with diesel trucks, you could go right New York to Los Angeles without stopping if you didn't want to. And they're more comfortable, they're safer, going to get to the point maybe even have driverless trucks. But this and they're all diesel. With electric trucks, you won't be able to do that. You're going to set back the trucking industry 50, 60 years. People won't be able to get what they need, food, medicine. Prices are going to go up. You're hurting the truck. They're going to hurt the trucking industry tremendously. You cannot make electric trucks. That does not work for that industry. You're going to set like I said, back about at least 50, 60 years. Our military, we want electric planes, electric trucks. Yeah, and then China has gas-powered vehicles. We're at a weakness. Why do they want to make our country weak? That's what I don't understand with the Harris Walls agenda. They want to make us what? Like California and Minnesota? You see the mess that California is in. And also, too, about Harris, too. Oh, a wall, they'll still get in even if there's a wall up there. Well, no, the Trump administration, the border was the most secure ever. And by the way, we had the best economy ever, too, when Trump was president. But the border was the most secure when Donald Trump was president. That's something that needs to be emphasized, which it really has. Trump has done a good job on that, saying that how secure our border was when we had Donald Trump for president. And when Harris, it's just going to get worse. Right now, we have about, 10 million illegals in this country. Uh, Could be even more than that. If she becomes president, I expect that number to triple. We don't know who's in this country. And ask people, the parents of Lincoln Riley, how dangerous they are. El Salvador, they're letting out their prisoners. They're mentally ill. They're letting gangs come here from Venezuela. That's pretty scary. And, the FBI and the Justice Department, instead of going after Trump and going after Peter Navarro like they did all these people in the Trump administration, January 6th, well, what about all these people coming in the country? What about going after these gangs? What about securing our border? Where's the FBI on that? Where's the Department of Injustice? You don't hear the liberal media doing any of that. Instead of going after January 6th, which we know wasn't true, Trump did ask for security and Pelosi refused to give it. He asked for National Guard, Pelosi refused it. But instead of worrying about Trump and another indictment, what about securing our border? What about going after these Venezuelan gangs? Look at the crime in these cities, how much it's gone up. You don't hear them talk about that. And then eventually, Kamala Harris, these people that come in here, she wants to give them free health care, free education. Right now, I've heard some people come in this country, it's a 2 years wait if you do it the right way. Some people just, go into Mexico and then come here illegally, which all that's going to do, if they grant amnesty, this is just going to encourage more of it. And you know what? Then we don't have a country. If we don't have borders, we don't have a country. And they love to bring this up. Well, 100 years ago, I'm of Italian descent. Other people were French, Polish, Irish, wherever, German or Portuguese, whatever. Oh, they came here into this country. Yeah, but they did it the right way. And they weren't able just to cross over a border. And when they came here, they didn't get free stuff. They didn't get the free health care. They didn't get free housing, all this other stuff, giving these people even today cell phones. That's just encouraging it. And I tell you this, the people who did it the right way, who became legal citizens, are not happy with that. And I know people that came from other countries that did it the right way through lawyers, everything else. They don't like it. They don't want amnesty because what does that say to them? These people did it the right way, are hard workers, doing everything right. Why? It's a slap in the face to them, and they're not happy about it. They don't like these illegals coming in here. What does that say to them? They did everything right. They're not happy about these people doing it the wrong way. So anybody was saying, "Oh, there's 3 million people been naturalized." I bet you the majority of them are going to vote by Trump because those are the legal immigrants. The legal immigrants don't want the illegal immigrants here, and this is affecting Black and Hispanic communities. They're not happy about the illegal immigration too. They're citizens, they're hard workers, they're not happy with it. Which, by the way, I believe Trump is close to 50% with the Hispanic vote, around 20% with the Black vote, the African American vote. With numbers like that, Trump wins. Harris can't win with numbers like that. And by the way, I want people to listen to Gold Crown Politics. Gold Crown Politics, where what's going on in this country, the state by state. That Trump right now is ahead in all the swing states, including Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, uh, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I also think Trump has a very good chance the way right now of winning Minnesota, where Tim Walz is from. Good chance of winning Virginia, New Hampshire, Maine, New Mexico. He has a very good chance of winning those states. New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, Maine, Minnesota. He has a very good chance of winning those states. By the way, he has a very good chance of winning New Jersey too, because it's single digits. I believe he's down around 5 points. Harris is up 5 in New Jersey. That's not good for a state that Biden won by close to 15 points. Trump has a very good shot at winning New Jersey. I also think he has a very good shot at winning New York too. Might have an outside shot here of winning Connecticut too. I'd see Trump campaign again, go to New Jersey, go to New York, but he has a very good shot at winning those states. In Pennsylvania, a lot of people in the energy business there that work there. You have to be crazy to vote by Harris because she wants to basically put the energy industry out of business. She's opposed to fracking, putting coal miners out of business. By the way, electric cars, where are you going to get this electricity from? It has to come from somewhere. And electric cars is just going backwards. Kind of reminds me with Biden with the trains, putting in this whole system of trains, high-speed trains. That's going backwards because we have airlines and you get pretty fast on a plane. Jet planes, you don't need all these, you don't need trains anymore. Yeah, in the countries they have high-speed train, China and stuff like that, but those are different kind of countries. With Europe, different kind of countries. Here we have airplanes, and air travel is actually safer than trains, and you get there faster. So I remember that's going backwards, going to trains. And we also have an extensive highway system that Trump wants to improve, that needs to be improved, which, by the way, I always considered private highways in this country. I've also considered privatizing the highway system, which we'd have a better highway system at a lower cost. Private sector does better things at a lower cost. And I was Kamala Harris, by the way, is against school vouchers, school choice, something Trump is all in favor of. And I noticed too, there's an article about the Chicago Teachers Union, how they're opposed to, of course, school choice, school vouchers, while a third of Chicago teachers send their children to private schools. Many of these union bosses in the teachers union send their children to private schools. So it's a double standard. They don't want you to send your children to private schools. They don't want you to have school choice, but it's okay for them to send their children to private schools or to have school choice. How many liberals have sent their children to private schools? Let's talk about that. Kamala Harris doesn't have any children, but her nieces and nephews went to private schools. Her stepchildren went to private schools. Let's talk about that. So isn't there a hypocrisy there? Do as I say, but not as I do. This is because the Democrats are in bed with the teachers union. Even Bill Clinton, Chelsea went to private schools while he's taking money from the teachers union against school. Democrats, they don't want school voucher, school choice, including Biden, Harris, all these Democrats, be it Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, but yet all their children went to private schools. So isn't there a double standard there? Do as I say, but not as I do, and that could apply to a lot of people. It's like with guns too. These people that have security, these liberals, they have people with guns. So it's okay for them to own guns or to have people carry guns to secure them, but they don't want you and I to own firearms. So there's a big double standard there. And also a lot to talk about here. There's a lot going on, even here in Connecticut too, where we have in my seat, where we have Joanna Hayes, who, as far as I'm concerned, is part of the squad, really hasn't had any accomplishments in Washington. She's very far left, running here in the 5th District in Connecticut. George Logan's running against her. George Logan almost beat her last time. I'm hoping that Trump has a very good showing in Connecticut. He can't win the state, has a good showing where he pushed Logan over the top. I would like to see that, where Logan get into Congress. I like to see the Republicans at least pick up 2 seats in Connecticut. I'd like to see them pick up some other seats, because within these blue states, there's a lot of red. I've always said that there's a lot of red. And I tell you this, if the Electoral College, it should stay. If the Electoral College was done by congressional districts and things like that, the Republicans would win every election, because the Democrats want to eliminate the Electoral College because they rely on big cities like New York, Los Angeles. If you eliminate the Electoral College, you're going to have cities like New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco dictating to this whole country. They would want their liberal policies throughout the whole country, which is pretty scary. The Electoral College was put in by the Founding Fathers so the big states wouldn't be able to dominate the little states. The little states would have a say. That's what it was, because they weren't confident in the individual people picking the president. And you know what? They were right. I've always been a fan of the Electoral College. Keep it. These liberals, you know what it is? If they can't win, they change the rules. That's what they've been trying to do for years. But thankfully we have the Constitution. Thankfully that's not going to happen. Like making Washington D.C. a state. Washington D.C. is not supposed to be a state. It's supposed to be an independent city, free of any influence from any states. That's what's supposed to happen. That's why Washington D.C. is not part of any state. It was put there for a reason. I know in 61, they said have 3 electoral votes. You have 2 senators, 1 congressman. They want to make it a state with 2 senators, 1 1 congressman, because that's 3 more. 2 more senators in the U.S. Senate, another congressman in Congress. Sorry, that's not what it is. See, this is the typical liberals. They can't win, so they'll change rules, like packing the Supreme Court, term limits on the Supreme Court. They're supposed to be lifetime appointments because they're not supposed to be political. I know the Supreme Court has become political, but we don't have a choice. That's how it is now. Thankfully, because of Trump, the conservatives control the Supreme Court 6-3. Hopefully, Trump gets elected. Somebody retires. Sotomayor retires. It'll be 7-2. So we're set for generations on the Supreme Court. Thank God for that. But I'd also like to see the Republicans, Trump, have an excellent showing, even in the blue states, and you get the coattails where he carries the Senate, where it carries the Senate, where the Republicans gain control of the Senate, and they pick up much needed seats in the House too. So we could make gains in the House, the Republican conservatives, and make gains in the Senate. Republicans will have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. In the Supreme Court, they'll have everything. Plus, right now, the Republicans have control of most of the governorships in this country. Thank God. I like to see them. I think there are some governorships, up, uh, when I say governor races in this country. I'd like to see the Republicans make some gains there too. I know usually it's in the midterms, in the off years, you have these the governorships are up for governors are up for re-election, but I know that there are some governors up for re-election when the president is running. So I like to see the Republicans make some gains there too. The key is to take the Senate, control the Senate free and clear, not 50-50. Hopefully it'd be 53-54, somewhere around there the Republicans could gain. And they could definitely pick up much needed seats in the House. And I don't think, even in the best case scenario, I don't think Kamala Harris could win, because I predict that Trump, at the very least, is going to get 297 electoral votes. On the high end, I'm predicting 340, 350. I'm predicting right now at least 313. I think it could be a little higher than that, because I think at the end of the day, Trump, good chance of winning New Mexico, um, New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, Maine, New Hampshire. He has a very good chance of winning those states. I think a good chance in New York and New Jersey, definitely New Jersey, maybe even New York too. So I think there's a good chance of Trump gaining around 340, somewhere around there. With RFK dropping out, this definitely helps Trump. Because RFK was the anti-incumbent vote. And those people, just because RFK dropped out, they're going to say, all of a sudden I like Harris. No, they're going to go with Trump. This is definitely going to help Donald Trump a lot. And that's why I think he has a good shot of winning those states that I've mentioned. People in Minnesota are not happy with Tim Walz. They know the damage he's done there. And people are leaving that state for a reason, because he's very, very far left. How about the fact he's taking all these trips to China? That's very scary. 30 times in China, that's an awful lot. Is he getting friendly with the communist China? Does he want communist China to take over the U.S.? That's what it seems like. They want communist China to take over the U.S. Funny, China, when they had strictly communism under Mao, the people were starving in the late 70s. They even went to capitalism, because they know that pure communism is a failure, pure socialism is a failure. They went towards capitalism, um, because their people were starving over there. And right now, China realizes they can make moves on us, because we have basically a non-existing president, a vice president that's just out campaigning, doesn't know what she's doing. This is why they can make moves on us. And this is why they're trying to take over our country. That's why we need Trump, because this country's in big trouble if Harris gets elected. And this whole thing about allowing all these illegals in, they want to change the demographic of this country. They want more votes. They want to make these people grant these people amnesty, which all that's going to do is it create more illegal immigration, and it's going to just destroy our country. And Joanna Hayes, my congresswoman, where does she stand on all this? To me, she just goes along with what Pelosi says and the squad, who are very, very far left. And I've heard a couple of these people that are in the squad, they did get beat in primaries, because there's a lot of Democrats that are not happy with the far left that has taken over the party. Jewish people, they need to vote for Republicans. If you're Jewish and you vote for a Democrat, you're asking for your own destruction. I mean, the Democrats, they're controlled by the Hamas wing of the party. They Chuck Schumer's basically become a Palestinian. They want to destroy Israel. They want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Iran wants to do that, and that's scary, because if Iran goes after Israel, they're going to go after Europe. They're going to go after us next, and they're going to try to bring up an alliance with China and Russia, which is pretty scary. But the way to beat these countries, not through war, is to beat them economically. If we were energy independent, we don't need Iran. Iran would go broke. Wouldn't need Russia, too. We wouldn't need any of these countries for oil. Basically, let them eat their oil. That's what I say. And right now, I've heard a story of Germany buying oil, which is crazy, while we're defending Germany from Russia with the military. Why don't we just stop buying oil from Russia? Stop buying oil from Putin. Let Putin eat its oil. It's like when we were buying wheat from Russia in the 70s, that made no sense. Let them starve. Let's beat them economically. Like the war in Ukraine, this is just going on and on. By giving them money, it's just feeding the military industrial complex. Um, we should just easily end that war. Don't buy any oil. Don't do any trading with Russia. Put tariffs on, like tariffs with China. Uh, that worked. And you notice how China was no longer a threat to us once Trump put the tariffs on, and stealing our technology, things of that sort. Something that Biden is in with the communist government. Kamala Harris is in with the communist government of China. If anything, she's a communist sympathizer. She's a socialist sympathizer. And with immigration coming into this country, like with Mexico, see, when illegals came to this country before, they couldn't get in because they had to get asylum from Mexico first before they come here. But with Biden, that's no longer the case. And with Trump being president, when Trump was president, our border was secure. Hopefully, he gets back in. He's going to have to secure our border again, rebuild our military. Because when he got into office, there was a lot of problems with our military. We need to rebuild our military, and for that matter, like Trump did, send our military to the border. There's no reason why our border has to be where it is, and we're allowing dangerous people in this country. A lot of criminals. Well, people say, "Well, how do you go? You got 10 million people. How are you going to deport them?" Let's start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. And if you start deporting people, other people will leave. The illegals that are here, a lot of them will leave because, hey, they say they don't want to be here. You see in these cities, living in tents, these illegals all over the place in New York, people are not happy with that. They don't want these illegals here. You see, and even people who came to this country legally don't like illegal immigration. How about Kamala Harris, the border czar? What has she done? She said she was the border czar. It's been a failure. What is she going to do on the border? You ask her these questions, all she does is beat around the bush. She cannot answer a question. And I like to see the debate with Trump. All Trump has to do, don't open his mouth, let her talk. The more she talks, the more she's going to help Trump, more she's going to help the Republicans. I predict Trump's going to win by more than what people expect. They're going to make large gains in the House, large gains in the Senate. I think in my district, the 5th district, I think Joanna Hayes has got a good chance of being defeated. I think George Logan's got a very, very good chance of winning. A better chance than people realize. I like to see a couple other congressional seats in Connecticut go Republican. I like to see that. But I think we have to realize there's a lot of red in these deep blue states. They're not as deep, put it this way, they're not as deep blue as people realize. There's a lot of red in these states. Gun owners, you have to get behind Donald Trump. You have to be pro-gun. You have to, anybody that's pro-gun, anybody that's for the Second Amendment, you have to get behind Trump. I know Trump and the Republican Congress last time were trying to make it, if you have a permit for one state, all 49 states have to recognize it, like your driver's license. Well, that's how it should be. If you have a pistol permit from one state, all these other states should recognize it. Right now, the best you can get, up here in Connecticut, if you get an Arizona permit, it's recognized in 33 states. Florida permit is recognized in 34, 35 states. Same thing with a Utah permit. I recommend people up here and you're in Connecticut, get your Arizona permit. At least 33 states will recognize it. But it should be, if you have a permit in one state, it's recognized in all the other states. Anyways, the criminals don't get permits. This is what these far left loons don't realize. The criminals do not get permits. Before they say, hey, I'm gonna rob the bank, rob the store, I'm gonna kill somebody, I'm gonna go out, get my permit, buy a gun legally. They don't do that. These gun laws do not stop the criminals. They just make the law-abiding citizen defenseless. Read the book More Guns, Less Crime with John Locke. That's a book you have to read. More Guns, Less Crime. There's one town in Florida that mandated every household own a gun, and the crime rate dropped by 89%. So that's very, very interesting. And we've passed all these gun laws over the years. They don't work. Like Washington, D.C. One time, it was the strictest place to own a gun. It was the murder capital of the country. Chicago, the strictest place to own a gun. And look at the crime rate in Chicago, one of the most dangerous cities in the country. Actually, if you took away Washington, D.C., Chicago, New Orleans, the United States would be the 3rd safest country in the world. Actually, if we also start to secure our border, there you go. We wouldn't be as dangerous. And then you have these liberal DAs in all these places, backed by George Soros, Alvin Bragg, instead of going after Trump, go after the real criminals in Manhattan. Um, Trump's not a criminal. He's not a felon. And if you want to call him a felon, fine. I'm still voting for him. So is everybody else. But Trump is not a felon. He's wrongly convicted. Thankfully, when he gets in office, he'll be able to pardon himself. How about all the stuff that Hillary Clinton did? And you know what? I know Donald Trump wants to unite the country to get in, but he should go after all these people that went after him. He was trying to unite the country before. Obviously, it didn't work. With these liberals, they don't want to unite the country. They want to keep the country divided. That's how they exist. And the liberal media is part of it. What I say, the three-legged stool of liberalism in this country: the education system, the media, and Hollywood. The three-legged system of liberalism. And